Good morning, 8th grade. Welcome to day 4 of week 10. Today is May 28th. Day 4, no, day 3. I'm so sorry. I'm all backwards. Day 3 of week 10, May 28th. Okay, so today we are going to expand a little bit on our volume of a cylinder and find different dimensions of the cylinder if we were given the volume instead. So we're going to go to day 3. You'll see you have your lesson here. With the lesson is also another video that walks you through calculating the height, which is what we're going to focus on today when given the volume of a cylinder. So if you want to check that out, it's a quick 5-minute YouTube video that walks you through it. And as a reminder, you must use a scientific calculator when working with these for pi. So the calculator link is there like I showed you the other day, or if you're using an iPhone, you can turn your phone horizontally and you'll see the pi key. It's located next to the key that says rand. Okay, so this is your lesson. I'm going to use my bigger version for our video today. So you have a warm-up where I'm asking you to find the volume of the cylinder below. Most of you did very well with this yesterday, as I would assume you would since we've already covered it. Okay, and there's your worked for the answer. Remember, in terms of pi, rounding to the nearest tenth. When finding volume, we use cubic units. Okay, so today we're going to start with just finding the height if given a volume and either the radius or the diameter. So I have the same picture here on my board, and step 1 is always going to be to identify the information we have been given. Okay, so I know I'm still working with the cylinder, so my formula is still going to be V equals pi times r squared times the height. Okay, the information I've been provided is that my radius, since it's half the circle, is 2 centimeters. My volume is 100 centimeters cubed, or cubic centimeters, depending on how you like to say it. And we are not given the height, so that is going to be what we're looking for this time. Okay, step 2 is going to be the same thing as before. We're going to plug in the information that we have been given. So I'm going to rewrite my formula. And now I'm going to plug in the information I know. So this time I have my volume. So instead of writing V, I'm going to write 100 equals pi times, we have our radius, which is 2, so 2 squared times, we don't know our height. Okay, now solving this equation, we're going to use our order of operations, always do our exponents first. So I'm going to rewrite it, 100 equals pi times 2 squared, or 2 to the second power is 4, times h. Okay, now what I need to do is multiply pi times 4. Okay, and we're going to either use our pi calculator on the website or use your phone calculator if you turn it horizontally. I'm not going to show that for you again because I did model it yesterday. So take a look at yesterday's video if you want to see how that works. I'm just going to put the calculation because I already did it prior to. So we get 100 equals pi times 4 is approximately 12.56637, and it goes on, but I'm going to only put 5 digits times h. Now, I just want to talk about this real quick. When you are working with pi, pi is an irrational number, right? It goes on forever, never ends, never terminates. You can't predict unless you memorize the pattern of pi. So when you are calculating with pi, throughout your calculations, the best way to get the closest answer would be to leave at least 5 digits after the decimal. So a few of you, I mentioned that to yesterday in your work. I did not take off points for it, but I do want you to get in the habit of always leaving at least 5 digits after the decimal when operating with pi until you get to the end. When you get to the end, then you round to the place value that's given. Otherwise, even if you're doing any calculations, 5 digits after the decimal is always the best way to go, okay? So now I'm left with 100 equals this decimal times h. When solving an equation, to isolate the variable, I do the inverse. So my inverse would be to divide. So I'm now going to take my equation and I'm going to divide by 12.56637 to cancel it out here, and I'll be left with my h equals, and then I have to do the same thing to this side. So 12.56637. I'm going to divide, and I'm going to get 7 point, let me move this over, I forgot my decimals long, 95774 ... equals h. Okay, and then the last thing we do is round to the place value that's provided. On the lesson, I didn't provide it for this, but you should just know I usually round to the nearest tenths. So I'm going to write my final answer here. H equals, rounding to the nearest tenth, the 5's in the hundreds place. That would tell my 9 to go up, but when that happens, actually our 1's place value goes up. So my final answer is going to be 8.0. We were in centimeters, so centimeters. And notice I am not raising my unit to the third power because it is not a volume. When we talk about dimensions, they are singular units. Only volume gets that third power, gets the cubed. Okay, so that's all the work we would need to do to find our h. Remember to leave those 5 digits after when calculating now moving forward to avoid those rounding mistakes. Okay, everything that I just walked you through is in our lesson, so you guys can see all that information there. There's another example. Can anyone figure out like what's different about this example? I hope that some of you maybe are guessing what I'm hinting at. So in this example, we are given a diameter, right? So since we are given the diameter, when we are working in volume, we need a radius. So step 1, when you're identifying what you're given, you have to remember to split that diameter by 2. Divide it by 2 to get your radius. Because in the formula, we use a radius. We don't use a diameter. But if we have a diameter, we can always figure out the radius by dividing by 2. Okay, I didn't really see too many of you make that mistake yesterday. I think only like a handful, maybe even less. So just be mindful, if given a diameter, you have to split it by 2. Okay, and then once you have the information given, you're going to plug it into the formula. Okay, so I rewrote my formula, I plugged in the volume, I plugged in the radius, I don't know my height. So I'm going to do my exponents first. So I rewrite 25,000 equals pi times 13 times 13 is 169 times the height. Then I'm going to multiply 169 by pi, and I'm going to use my pi calculator, whichever one that is. I get 25,000 again equals 530 point, notice I have 5 digits after my decimal point, times the height. I then divide to isolate my h. I divide the other side. I get this long decimal that'll go on, equals h, and then I just round to the nearest tenths. Okay, again, notice my unit is singular because we are only finding the height. Whenever you find volume is when you put it to the third power. A simple dimension, you use a singular unit. Okay, I gave you one more to try on your own. Be mindful of whether or not it's a diameter or a radius. And then this is the one I wanted to take a look at. So given this volume, something is different in this problem. Sometimes they're going to give you the volume in terms of pi. And I actually prefer when they do that because it makes my calculations a whole lot easier. And you'll see why. Okay, so I'm going to remake this on my board. So I know that the radius is 11. We don't know the height. And my volume, I'm going to just abbreviate, is 2,178 pi feet cubed. Okay, so again, let's identify the information we're given. Even though I just said it, it's always good to write it down to have it. So we're still working in a cylinder, so my formula is V equals pi times r squared times the height. Okay, Let's list our information. So I know the volume is 2,178 pi feet cubed. I know that the radius is 11 feet, and I don't know the height. That's what I'm going to look for. Okay, so let's rewrite our formula and start plugging in. Pi r squared times the height. Let's plug in. So we know volume is 2,178 pi equal to pi times, my radius is 11, so times 11 squared times the height. Okay, now same as before, we're going to do our exponents first. We should always do order of operations, exponents come first. So 11 squared, we'll figure that out. I'm going to rewrite 2,178 pi equals pi times 11 times 11 is 121 times the height. Now, I usually like to just rewrite this because it bothers me when pi is on the left side of a number. So I'm going to do that now, and we can because of the commutative property. You definitely don't have to do that. I don't do it in the lesson, but it just is more appealing to my eye. So I'm going to do that. So we get 121 times pi times h. Okay? Now, our goal is to isolate h. So in order to isolate h, we have to inverse the operations that's happening to it, which is multiplication. So I'm going to divide by not only 121 pi. Okay? And the reason why I do that is because 121 over 121 will cancel to 1, right? Pi over pi will cancel to 1. Anything over itself cancels out or equals 1. We don't have to put the 1 in front of h because we know it's there. So we get h isolated. Now, when I move over to this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to divide by 121 pi. And check this out. Again, look, we have pi over pi. Anytime you have the same thing over itself, it cancels out to 1. So we don't need it there anymore. And we simply just divide 2,178 by 121, and we get a nice whole number of 18. So my final answer is going to be h equals 18, and our units were feet. Again, remember singular units because it's only a dimension, not a volume. Okay, so see how much easier that is? There's no rounding involved. You don't need to leave those 5 digits after the decimal, okay? Because those pi's will just cancel out when you divide them on both sides since they already are on both sides. Got it? Okay. Same thing, all work in the lesson, everything I just modeled for you. There is another example here. Again, be mindful. In this example, they give you a diameter. So if you notice, I say, make sure you divide by 2 because in our formula, we need a radius. So we take that 40 divided by 2, our radius is 20, okay? Again, our volume was in terms of pi. So when we write it, we're going to include that for our volume. We do 20 to the second power first. 20 to the second power is 400. I rewrote it because I just like how it looks better that way. Divide by 400 and pi. 400 and pi will cancel out on the right side to leave us with h. 400 and pi divided on the left side will cancel out the pi's. And the quotient of 10,800 by 400 is going to be 27. So your answer would be 27 feet. Okay, there's another one for you to try on your own with the answer on the following slide, and then you have your exit slip to complete when done. So just want to explain one thing. So your exit slip is here. It's in the same order as the lesson flowed, so just be mindful of that. The first questions, the volumes are given just regular, and then as you move on, the volumes are going to be given in pi. So just be mindful of which ones you're solving for. The other attachment that's here, you'll notice it says project. Project for finding the height of a cylinder. So this is really just an activity we had planned for you. But since you have your virtual trip tomorrow to Six Flags, woohoo, can't wait. This is going to be due by Monday, June 1st by 8 a.m. Okay, it's really not that difficult, guys. You're going to be finding the heights of the cylinders and making your way through the maze. If I felt like this would take you any longer than I don't know, maybe I would give it like tops an hour, tops. I would not be assigning this to you. Okay, so you're going to solve the problems for the height for each cylinder using the formula V equals pi times r squared times the height to solve. You must use your scientific calculator to solve using pi. Remember, you can use your phone using it horizontally next to the key rand. Otherwise, use the link provided here. You must show your work on page 2 by completing it digitally or using other submission methods provided. Number 1 has been provided as a model for you. So you're going to start here. I did this example for you on your work page, so it's already done. You already have one done for you. I'm going to scroll down there. Here's the work I did to solve for the height. So it's the same thing we just did in the lesson. So honestly, if I were you and I had time today, I'd probably just bang this out today instead of worrying about it over the weekend, but that's just me. So plugged in all the information we knew, did my exponents first, multiplied 9 and pi, got my answer with those 5 digits after the decimal, divided, and then rounded. Got my answer of 10. So now that I see that from this one, my answer is 10, I'm not going to go to 5, I'm not going to go to 2, I'm going to go over here to the 10. And then I solve this cylinder. And you're going to make your way through the maze until you reach the finish. Okay, so it is a project. It's going to be worth 6 points. So again, you can submit it before Monday, but it has to be in by Monday at 8 a.m. June 1st, Monday at 8 a.m. If it's any later than that, I have to start deducting points for it being past the due date. Okay, I hope that was clear. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. I hope that you guys have fun tomorrow on the virtual trip. I saw what Mr. Hayden and Mr. Sidman did for the 7th grade for Dorney Park, and it was really cool. I actually thought it was better than I was expecting, so I hope that it's just as good. I can't wait to explore it with you on Friday as well, and I hope that you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe, and I miss you. Take care.